the forest protection area, 20 of which are carryover wildfires from the 2023 season, and all of these wildfires are either under control or being held. There's a wildfire that started in the Northwest Territories in 2023 that is still burning along the border north of high level, and both Alberta and the Northwest Territories are actively fighting this wildfire. The wildfire currently poses little risk to infrastructure or other resources, and it is anticipated that the Alberta side of the wildfire will be classified as being held in the coming days. We also continue to experience success with our response tactics and the improvements we've made since last wildfire season, demonstrated by the considerable decline in area burned. At this time last year, Alberta had over 520,000 hectares of forest burned, whereas so far in 2024, we have just under 29,000 hectares burned. To continue with the good news, last week's out-of-control wildfire near Fort McMurray that prompted an evacuation order is now being held. And thanks to the favorable conditions, along with diligent work on behalf of firefighters and support staff, the evacuation order has been lifted and impacted Albertans have been able to return home. We thank these individuals for their patience and understanding while we responded to the wildfire. I know this experience likely brought up old memories and anxieties associated with the 2016 wildfires. I'm proud of the way Albertans continue to step up when their neighbors and communities need support and the way we work together to ensure the safety of everyone involved. Changes to wildfire danger have also allowed us to lift and amend a number of restrictions and bans that were put in place while the wildfire was still out of control. The fire ban in the southern part of the Fort McMurray forest area has been lowered to a fire advisory, and the off-highway vehicle restriction has also been lifted. A fire ban remains in effect in the northern section of the Fort McMurray forest area, and a fire advisory is in effect in the high-level forest area. While current wildfire danger, area burned, and the number of active wildfires are encouraging, it's important to remember that conditions can change very quickly in Alberta, leading to heightened wildfire danger and activity. Alberta's government will continue to proactively respond to changes in wildfire risk level as the season progresses. We're expecting rain in many areas of the province over the next few days, but it's crucial Albertans continue to stay up to date on wildfire risk levels. If we experience a stretch with dry, windy conditions, wildfire activity could easily ramp up quickly, and we need to continue to prepare for this possibility. So far this year, 77% of wildfires have been confirmed as human-caused, and many wildfires currently under investigation will fall under the human-caused category as well. This, unfortunately, is not good news. Despite our efforts to remind Albertans and visitors about the importance of taking extra care with any action that could cause a wildfire, over the May long weekend, 25 abandoned campfires were detected in the Calgary forest area. These were quickly extinguished by patrol staff, but if wildfire danger had been higher, these easily could have led to new catastrophic wildfire starts over the long weekend. Each of the human-caused wildfires could cost you and me millions of dollars to fight, threatening our homes and communities. Favorable conditions and the efforts of our firefighters on the front lines do not reduce the need for continued care and diligence. If conditions become dry and more favorable to wildfires as we move further into summer, human-caused wildfires could easily grow bigger and more dangerous than they have so far this year. Please exercise extreme caution this wildfire season and work to develop fire-smart habits that will help protect our province even when wildfire danger is high. Remember, we all have a part to play when it comes to protecting our forests and communities, and we need to make sure that when we're spending time outdoors, we're doing it safely. So thank you again to our incredible men and women on the front lines for wildfire response. Albertans everywhere owe you so much for your hard work and dedication, and we appreciate the sacrifices you make to keep us safe from harm. With that, I'll hand things over to Alberta Wildfire Information Unit Manager, Christy Tucker, for an operational update. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. As Minister Lowen just said, there are currently 30 wildfires burning in the forest protection area of Alberta. 3 of those are being held, and the rest are under control. Since the beginning of the year, we have responded to 358 wildfires, and 346 of those have been extinguished. It was a wet and cool long weekend for most Albertans, and those conditions certainly did help the work of firefighters, especially those working up north. We recorded more than 45 millimeters of rain on the wildfire outside Fort McMurray over the weekend, but it doesn't mean our work there is done. Firefighters, aircraft, and heavy equipment have continued working with more than 200 firefighters on the ground to reinforce containment lines and extinguish hotspots. It was because of the combined efforts of the incident management team, staff, contractors, and the municipality that we were able to announce a change in status on that wildfire this weekend. Elsewhere in the province, we had 33 new starts between Friday and Monday. Most of those were determined to be caused by people recreating outdoors. But our staff also had hundreds of positive interactions with Albertans who were out and about over the weekend. Our patrols visited popular recreation areas and random camping sites to share wildfire information and answer questions. I'd like to thank the many people who took care to follow the fire restrictions and bans in place to help us reduce human-caused wildfires this weekend. As the weather warms up, we will respond if we see the wildfire danger rising again. And you can always find the latest information at albertafirebans.ca. Thank you.
Thanks, Christy. With that, we'll go to questions. I believe there's no one on the line, but we'll keep monitoring the line. So for now, we'll start in the room. Go ahead.
Jonathan Bradley, Western Standard. So Minister Lowen, you said that 77% of wildfires so far this season are man-made. Do you believe any of them were done in malice? Why or why not?
All wildfires in Alberta are investigated, and so we haven't had any reports back on the exact, how each fire started and where we're at exactly with that. We know that there can always be that opportunity that people will start fires intentionally, but by and large, the majority of the wildfires that have been identified so far have been human caused, and either by accident or by negligence.
Okay, and my follow-up pertains to the Fort McMurray wildfire evacuation. So the order was lifted, and many people on social media and in the media in general were saying that the evacuation went smoother compared to the 2016 one. What steps did you take to ensure that the evacuation was smoother than in 2016?
Now, the evacuation, of course, that happens under AMA, and so I might have Stephen kind of take that question. But I know there's been a lot of, we did learn a lot last year from the number of evacuations that we had, number of people that were evacuated last year. And I heard similar to what other people heard, is that we had good reports as far as the evacuation and how smoothly it ran. But maybe I'll have Stephen take over.
Yeah, thanks, Minister. So as you will recall, there was an extensive post-incident assessment review done of the 2016 RMWB fire, let's call it that. So all the recommendations out of that post-incident assessment were implemented, so that's part one. Part two is, if you go back to 2016, the evacuation order happened in extremely compressed timelines. So there was no notice to move, so to speak. And in this case, the local authority did an extremely good job in collaboration with Forestry and Parks or Alberta Wildfire to monitor the fire, provide the community with a notice to be ready to evacuate, and then, unfortunately somewhat, the order came to evacuate and people knew where to go, knew what they had to pack with them. So it was a more deliberate process than it was last time. So we always strive to provide this type of alert notification ahead of an actual evacuation to get people ready and get their affairs in orders, their paperwork, clear direction on where they need to go, and take care of their pets as well, because that adds always a bit of complexity, as some folks evacuated with exotic animals, some folks evacuated with horses actually. And arrangements were made with the local communities to manage that. So I would also take this opportunity to thank the folks of Fort McMurray and the whole regional municipality of Wood Buffalo and the hosting communities that happened to be, what, 5 in the end. So Edmonton being the largest one, Cold Lake, Bonnyville, and Lac-La-Biche. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Next in the room here, Catherine.
Yeah, Catherine Gurkowski, Alberta. I'm not sure if it's a question for you or another minister, but I'm thinking back to, like, in 2016 there was a Fort McMurray wildfire, and then in 2020 there was the flooding, and we're expected to go from a El Nino to La Nina. I'm wondering, how does all the forest that's burned, how's that going to impact flood risk?
I guess there's always a chance, and you're probably right, this would be a good question for Minister Schultz, but when vegetation is removed by wildfire, it does create a situation where the water can move quicker, and there's not as much vegetation there to soak up some of the rains and maybe snow melts and things like that. So that could cause a greater opportunity for flooding. Most of the fires that we seen last year were in the north in the boreal area where there's less, I guess the terrain is a little flatter, would be the way to say it. And so maybe a little less chance of those fires creating that kind of flooding situation. But again, there's the speed of which the water escapes the terrain is probably the risk with having the wildfire burning up that lower vegetation. I'm not sure, did you want to cover it?
Sure, I could just say, often when a wildfire is smoldering or burning at the roots of a tree, it can cause damage to the structure and stability of the tree, which is one of the reasons it's unsafe for people to go to a recently burned area because the trees themselves may be unstable. So there is damage, of course, that we see that can occur to the roots of the trees, which could have a knock-on effect, as the minister said.
And were the majority of those human-caused wildfires over the weekend, was that in the Calgary forestry area? And do you think maybe there needs to be targeted awareness of pockets where there isn't that evacuation order or there isn't heightened?
Yeah, so the 25 I referred to were 25 campfires that Alberta government personnel found that were left unattended. And so those are ones that, of course, create a huge risk to turning into a wildfire and a catastrophic wildfire. As far as the other starts this past weekend, I don't have the data on that. I'm not sure if Christy has that yet, but I'll have her maybe take over. But any of these starts are alarming, especially the ones that are human caused, and especially the ones that are just out of carelessness. I mean, that's alarming. The cost of wildfires is extreme, and I think if people realize how much just leaving a campfire unattended it costs to taxpayers, cost to people's disruption, people's lives, I think that's important to get across to the people of Alberta. By and large, the vast majority of Albertans do really well and are very concerned and caring, but there is some carelessness out there. That's unfortunate.
Of the 33 fires, 26 in total were found to be recreational caused, and so just one outside of the Calgary forest area. So obviously around Calgary is a popular place for people to go for the long weekend. There are a lot of very popular random camping sites, and our staff know those areas well. And that is part of their long weekend routine. There were more than 1,700 interactions with Albertans in the Calgary forest area. We have a large staff of patrol officers, and it is really an outreach and education exercise over the long weekend, particularly focused in that area, because we have places where we know people like to go, random camping. They may be at higher risk of starting a wildfire, and so that's where we focus our efforts and interact with the people where they like to go to enjoy the outdoors.
Thanks, Christy. Anyone else here in the room? Looks like no further questions here in the room. We've got time if anyone needs to follow up on anything. I think we're covered. Anyone on the line? I believe not. Just a final check. So I think that's it for questions. We'll wrap there. Thanks, Minister, Christy, and Steve. Watch the usual notices for further updates. As of right now, we'll stick with this format, a weekly update coming next week, but please just confirm. Obviously, we'll adjust with the conditions. So thanks very much, all.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks.